Okay, so now I'm set to draw this, start to draw this. Remember, I'm going to be drawing the white shapes. Kind of the leaves are there, but I'm drawing the white shapes within our quadrants here, within the quadrants here. And remember, these lines are substituting how we sight in the still lifes. So it's another way of looking at that. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to measure some of this out. I can see that this leaf intersects right here at the halfway point. So let's establish the halfway point right here, which is right about there. So that is the top of this leaf right there. So I can start to draw that with confidence. The stem right here, you can see how it intersects with this right here just above this intersection point. So to draw this initial triangle shape here, you see this triangle shape I'm going to draw, which has a little squiggly line within it. I'm initially going to draw this triangle shape. That's the beginning and end point of two of these shapes. I could estimate where the triangle shape, or where it begins right there, how it intersects right there, and I would estimate it to be right about there. So I'm drawing this triangle shape initially. So this is the top of the leaf right here. Actually, yeah, let me redo this a little bit. So this is the top of the leaf right there, bottom. And so this triangle shape, in relationship, yeah, it's kind of, this is the shape I'm initially looking at, but I'm going to draw this little shape down here. So let's draw the top of the leaf, which is going to come right about to there probably. Carefully look at that line and see how it comes. Now I'm going to draw the bottom part of that leaf right there. This is going to be the stem, which is going to come up right there and there. Now I'm going into the fatter stem. The top part of it is going to intersect right there. And then this will be the bottom part of that. Now you see this triangle shape I was talking about right here and right here. Now I've got that little squiggle line right here, which is going to come like this, bend back up and come back down. And then that is the width of it right there. Okay, so now I'm going to come up here and I'm going to start to draw this kind of shape in between here. Okay, so I can see how that comes up. Now where this leaf here starts to break away from the stem, I can kind of measure where that is here, which it comes away about right about there. So maybe this needs to come up just a little bit more. And then I could start to draw this leaf shape, which ends, I would guess, right about there. So I'm going to use that as an estimate there. And now my new leaf shape begins right here, which almost ends right at the top here. And look at the distance between my vertical and this shape right, or this space right here. So this shape and the distance here, which will give me my end point of my leaf, which would probably be right about there. Okay, so this is going to begin here and end here and arc out. Now let's look at that arc real carefully and just start to draw it. So you kind of have a beginning and an end point. So you could kind of use both. And see, now I'm going to have this meet up in the center here. Just carefully look at what you're drawing. Now let's look at the top of this line. See how you might think a leaf is kind of oval shaped. Well, this isn't, because it's up on the edge. See how narrow it is up here? You're drawing a space in between. So let's start by drawing this V shape right here. So this is part of the V shape right here, this right here. Now we can start to draw that. Now you see about halfway up, see how it makes that wrinkle? Now it's going to come back up here and end there, just below the top of the page. So we could see how that goes there. Now I'm going to start to draw this shape right in here. First I'm going to see how far over this goes and about how far down from the top of the page is. I would estimate it's going to be, this is probably pretty close to this distance here, and then this distance here, I would guess is right about there. So this is the beginning point, this is the end point, this is the beginning point, this is the end point. Now I'm going to look at the angle of these shapes in between, this initial V shape here. Okay, so let's look at that V shape, see how it comes up. It's narrow, it starts to curve, has a little bend right there that I'm going to try to capture. And it comes back down. Now it starts to slope down really fast to get to that point. Now I've got this next shape here. See how it has a bend in it right there? So I'm going to try to capture that bend. So it's going to come over, and it's going to bend up. Then it's going to start to angle down. Now when I look down here, I'm going to see how, oh, this leaf right here is right there. I got to orient myself where I am. So this is the other side of that leaf, and I know it's going to come in here right to the stem, and this becomes the point of the leaf that goes into those little squiggles right here. So this end here is going to follow around and through. Now I want you to draw very slowly. I want you to try to make these lines continuous if you can. Don't lift this up too much as you're drawing these individual shapes. Now let's get into some of this other stem work here. So here's the big stem. Here's another stem for this leaf right here, which is coming almost, see it's coming straight across from this point right here. So we have this, and then it comes up like that. This, and then it comes up. And then I have some little, now when you make the squiggles, don't make random squiggles, or in my case, I want to see where these squiggles begin and end, and I'm just going to try to draw those shapes that I see. Looking at the space in between, like this, to make sure I'm capturing that shape. So this is pretty close to what I have in this first quadrant. Now I'm going to continue on with the rest of this composition, but I want you to draw in quadrants as you go around. Now I'm not going to take us to this. Before you do this next step, you need to complete the whole, all four quadrants. Now I want you to carefully go in with your fat Sharpie, and between your fat and your thin Sharpie, I want you to very carefully start to fill in this negative space. This is what you were actually drawing, was this negative space. So I want you to very carefully, the careful part comes into when you're going up against this edge, and this is a good time to double check yourself and see how well you drew that edge, and then you can start to come in here and finish the rest of it out. This is helping you to see in a different way, and also remember, it's also reinforcing the siding things that we were doing last week with these grid lines here. That's representing what you were able to do by holding your tool up at an angle. Now this is where it gets careful right here. Again, I'm just going to do a small section of this so you can see what I'm doing. But try to sharpen up your lines as much as possible. If you think you made a boo-boo, you might be able to correct it. Now this is where it's going to get tricky. And the trickier it is, these little teeny details is really what makes this a more interesting composition. So capture these little teeny shapes and these little teeny details as you're filling in these areas. And by that I mean is this is where it gets right here. This is the stem, this is the negative space. I can see the negative space right there. My negative space is white. I'm transferring it to black. So the squiggle right here, this is the shape in between the squiggle. This is that stem. And then I'm going to fill in this right here to refine my squiggle. You might have thorns or something else. Or you might see how complicated this is and you get really simple leaves. Don't do that. Challenge yourself. Get some of these small little details. See that in your leaf, because that's what's going to make this much more interesting. Okay, so I did a small section of this here, but you could start to see what this is going to look like. I'll go ahead and eventually fill that in, but don't start doing this until you've drawn in your whole composition here. This should easily take you an hour, if not more. Neatness is going to count. How you take your picture is going to count. I'm grading these according to the rubric that I put in the lesson. So the first couple weeks I was just giving you points if you did everything. Now I'm going to start to grade your composition and how well you completed directions. Okay?